Google Cloud Platform.
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, first, we have a great cloud platform.
Yes.
So I've been told by a few of you that we need a little better job on marketing, so we're working on it. But no, it's our adventure to externalize all the fun stuff that Google's been using and their engineers have been working on for years. Somewhat for people to use it immediately, and a lot of it coming out in open source. And so the adoption has been just phenomenal. The customers have been given us phenomenal feedback and just launched some amazing things. So we've just working on getting services that match to meeting people where they are. And so this journey for Google over the last 4 years has been eye-opening. You know, we've moved to an awareness. So we were, I guess, in the conscience or the competence model, we were unconsciously incompetent. We just didn't even know it was out there. And it was just amazing to see engineers at Google pull up their head and go, wow, that is some really great stuff. And we said stuff like Google Code dead. Let's go with GitHub, right? So it's just the adventure's been fantastic and really learning for us. And we've got some great coaches, and you guys have been one of the best.
Well, that's great. And we've had a good relationship. Get us caught up on the Google Chef relationship and where it's going.
Yeah, so we've done a ton of work lately with base level work. So this means you can run your cookbooks on Google as you want. We're going to be releasing a whole bunch more cookbooks over the next couple months. And I'd look to all of you guys to say, what are the cookbooks that matter most to you? So we have Google engineers that are invested on this. You all coach us a lot when we talked about what you needed in open source. And and you guys were really blunt. You said, we need Google engineers engaged, right? And I think that's a pattern that we see across the board.
So you're going through the certified cookbook program that we have.
Yes, we're going to go get certified cookbooks into the Sippy Cup program. So
right, and so it's what, about 25 or so cookbooks?
Yeah, 25 cookbooks to fill out for everyone. You can run the cookbooks against any services on Google. So it's a good baseline, but it's just a start point, right? So we're good to go. Now we need to work with you all to figure out, and all of you, on what else you guys want to run.
Right. So Nick from Intel was just out here talking about Kubernetes and the collaboration we're doing together. And talk about some, your perspective on how you're helping customers think about the transition they're making, right? And, yeah.
So we've seen most of our customers obviously kind of sit into two, I'd say larger buckets, and I say, traditional startup, scale, massive, Snapchat, a perfect example, and then big companies like Home Depot or Disney or otherwise, right? And where we've seen is obviously a lot of companies are maturing to the notion and realizing that in this case, public cloud, right? Since that's where I operate, they're not all the same, and each one has its own flexibilities and its strengths, and being able to take advantage of the strengths of each one offers. Is certainly where we're seeing most of our customers go. Right. So living in a world where they can move it between, demand for the ability to run something in multiple places is really critical to all of them that we've been talking to. Yeah,
so we can't get away without mentioning Habitat and talking about
No, we love Habitat. So we're getting our hands around it, right? With you, you guys were awesome. I mean, you guys brought us in early and gave us good understanding of where you guys were headed. I know that we had a number of discussions internally with Adam and team on, hey, thoughts on things you should think about. I'm excited because it helps people move from brownfield to greenfield. So if you're developing a new application, hey, that's great, but that paradigm's pretty well defined, and not that Habitat doesn't fit that great as well. So use it for both. But I think we're excited because it helps people they'll be able to spend in that paradigm, spend more of their time in developing new code and extending maybe old code even.
Right. And I think, selfishly for you, that means workloads getting to GCP faster, easier.
Yes. I mean,
regardless.
We do run a cloud platform, and we love to have workloads on there. So that's sort of the way the business model works. But in a fundamental way, Google's always had a very basic paradigm, which is if we are not the very best place for you to run something, you should go elsewhere. And it's critical because what it does is it forces us to think about our partners and our users and everyone else, and we engage in a way that's deep, that's authentic and honest. And if we give you a free way out, right? So if we work in a Kubernetes or we work closely with Chef in a way that companies can put something on Google, but if they need to go somewhere else, they can. Now, what that means is I have amazing dialogue with you all. I have amazing dialogue with you as a partner because we've opened up that door, right? And there's no feeling I'm trapped. There's no feeling you didn't deliver value. And it forces value to the top, and everyone brings good value to the table.
Yeah. So hearing you talk, right, I'm thinking a little bit about, okay, what's that engagement model that you think is optimal for organizations who are looking to move to GCP?
Yes. So I think from an engagement model, if someone's looking, I mean, clearly most of the ones that are coming to us are already on a cloud. So have used it or are familiar with another one.
Yeah.
So we generally really like to help them in the notion of working with someone like with Chef. Run it, you get it, now you get some of this flexibility. I do have just a little bit on that, building on that notion. I do have some really big concerns on what I'm seeing in the open source world. And I'll just be honest on this. The way in which people get measured, I'll just give you a little view behind the covers of how this all stuff kind of works. Yeah. Anyone look at a Gartner, no one's in a place that has to look at a Gartner or a Forrester, Wave or, right? All of us do, right? So that's just a way in which we think about it. And there's nothing implicitly wrong in any way, shape, or form.
You mean like that stack ranking of vendors?
There's a stack ranking, and then you put them upper right and upper left.
A capabilities view.
Yeah, so it's a capabilities view. And the piece about it is, it's interesting in the conversation is, it's a stack rank that says, hey, do you offer these services? So one of the interesting things that comes back is the question is, do you offer it as a native service? This is a question that gets asked across the industry all the time. And I'll give you an example, right? So an Elasticsearch option, right? Do you work closely with Elasticsearch and you can have an option that runs on your platform? The answer is, sure, that's great. You don't get credit for that in the way this is currently measured in our industry, right? You only get credit if you take the open source, bring it inside your own four walls, and you make it yours. And then you offer it as a service. The question becomes, what happens to the people that just created Elasticsearch? What happens to the people that have created this amazing open source software? And I think we're in a little bit of a place that we're right before the green revolution. Everyone remembers, like, it's green. What does that really mean? Should I make a different change on the bottle I use because it's green? And now all of us just take it for granted that there's an implication of the choices we make to the environment based off of green. I believe we're there with open source. And I think there's a decision that everyone, and I would encourage all of you to think of this maybe a little more differently. What is, and how, and what way are the money you're spending elsewhere influencing and giving feedback into the open source world? Because it needs to be sustainable, right?
And it's looking at it through the lens of driving an innovation engine.
Correct, yeah. Right. I mean, where are we putting engineers? I mean, hats off. I'm sure many of you didn't know the amount of work Intel does to make sure not just the Linux kernel, but Kubernetes. I mean, that's 3-4 layers differentiated. The work they're doing on with you guys on Habitat, that's another level differentiated.
Right.
But those are things that we as a group need to measure. I think that's something that we as an industry need to reward, right? And so those behaviors are ones that I want you all to keep us honest when we work on it. What is it that the open source community, in this case, what does the Chef community need from Google? Right now, you were honest and you said, we need engineers.
Right.
Engineers to do this, own this, and make sure that it runs great on Google. Let's do that, and that's what we've done. But that's just a start. There's a lot more that we need to do, and we just have this open, honest conversation on what that takes.
That's some great insights.
Yes.
So before we leave the stage, is there anything else you want to make sure you impart out to everybody? I know you have some activities today. And
oh, yes. Sorry. I'm supposed to do that, right? Make sure we have activities. Phenomenal team upstairs on 5 is going to go through, now it's Chef to Automate. Get my terms correct, because I was like, Chef Delivery at Chef Automate. In front of App Engine, which is the world's biggest PaaS, right? Which would be, so we're giving and working with Chef to help companies move through that entire process, no matter where they end up in wanting to run the code, anywhere from a PaaS to an IaaS to a, I guess we're going to have to find a new name for what is Habitat, right? Because it's not a PaaS, it's even a level above it. So,
well, Habitat makes running your workloads on a PaaS better.
Right, exactly. So that works great. Yes. So we're going to be showing that off and going through some real world examples, showing how customers are doing and running workloads, both on Google and others, using Chef.
That's exciting.
I'd love to have you guys, and then come by the booth. We have a bunch of starter credits for you guys from Chef. So Chef's got a bunch of starter credits if you guys want to start and play with the platform. But
Brandon, thank you for taking the time to come here.
And I think like the message I would just say is, Adam said it no better than you could possibly say it, is when you thrive, I thrive. I love that as the notion of what we should think. I'd love to see the whole open source community and everyone outside of it, because everyone can succeed, but we all have to think about making sure the guy next to us that did the coding is thriving.
That's great. So, hey, thank you. Thanks to Google. The partnership's been amazing.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Much
it.
appreciated.
Yeah.